Are you one of the 75% of contractors whose financial statements are inaccurate? Find out. Click on the link in the show notes and you'll get a free P&L and balance sheet check.
This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Get the business tool that makes your financial statements come alive and helps you grow profitably, build wealth, and significantly impact your life and the lives of your employees. Go to www.financiallyfit.business and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Here's how we will help your business and you. So you think you want to sell your business? And no, the likelihood of you deciding to sell and actually closing on the sale in a month is unrealistic. What should you prepare for? What should you expect? Where should you begin? My guest today, Ruth Mannschrek, who was shocked by the entire sales process, will give you the answers to these questions and more so that you don't have the same misconceptions and make the same mistakes she did. Ruth, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I'm very happy to be here.
My pleasure. And I'm going to tell everybody, you were a dentist first, all right? You weren't an HVAC contractor or a construction contractor.
Right.
So, but it translates. It doesn't matter what business it's in. I think everybody thinks their business is worth more than it is.
It is. It's our baby. It's the thing we prodded and grew and sacrificed for and drove our family crazy for. And we can think of all the things we've done to grow it into this fabulous entity that it is. And gosh darn it, if buyers don't look at it with just that perspective.
And they won't.
No. You know? And sometimes that's part of the problem is we don't know what kind of buyer would be interested in the kind of company we have ready to sell or we want to be ready to sell.
So how did you make the decision to sell?
Actually, I didn't give it any thought, unfortunately. Two colleagues approached me and wanted to purchase my practice. And I thought, oh, this is great. I don't even have to worry about getting it ready. They love it as much as I do. They like it just the way it is. They didn't. But in my mind, they did. So I didn't do all the due diligence that I should have. And because of that, because I went in unprepared, it's not that I didn't get a good price for my practice. It's that I left a lot of money on the table that would have been available to me had I known how to package the business that I was selling. I had no concept, so I missed a lot.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. What did you miss? What should a package look like? Let's start there.
I would say there are 4 different areas that I encourage business owners to look at before they're ready to sell their business. Because many times an owner will say, well, I'm ready to retire, so that means my business is ready to sell. And those two things couldn't be further from equal to each other. So the first thing that I encourage people to do is to look at how can I increase the value of my business before I sell it. And that might be from a revenue point of view. It might be from an equipment point of view. It might be a niche that you have that nobody else has. It's the perfect time to start deciding as an owner, what are the non-negotiables that I want going into this transaction? What am I willing to change or not willing to take? What's my high price? What's my low price? Just giving some structure to what the owner wants out of this transaction, because sometimes there's so many things to think of, we don't know where to start. So I say, let's start with what are your non-negotiables and how can you work on increasing the value in the eyes of a buyer of your business.
So the buyer, I would imagine, would be looking at your customer base or your client base in a dental practice, correct?
It depends. There are so many types of buyers. I've kind of lumped them together into four different groups. Sometimes there are beginners, people who want to buy a business as opposed to build a business. I call them beginners. Sometimes there are what I call settlers, someone who has an existing business and they just want to add. They want to add to that business. They want to add capacity, or they want to add geography, something they feel they're missing. Maybe it's a variety of services, but they want to add to their. So they're looking for different things than a beginner would. Then there are what I call marauders who would come in and say, you know what, I want all of your new trucks and I don't care what you do with the rest of your business. I want to pick the things that I'm going to pillage, the things I want, and I don't care what happens to your team, or do you know what I mean? They just have very specific things that they're interested in. And then my last group are investors, people who have deep pockets, have their own, possibly their own operations team, and they are looking for a place to plug in with money and team, or money and geography, or whatever their background is. But they are very specific, very sophisticated, or more so than most transactions. So those are rough groupings, but it gives you a framework to say, what kind of buyer am I looking for? Because it's not just, I'll take anybody who wants to buy my business. You have to get really specific to make sure you're packaging and promoting what the buyer is actually looking for.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want the marauder buying my business.
I know, but they do that so well. And you wouldn't think in dentistry, marauders are the worst. And it's just downright mean what they will do to their colleagues in wanting to not pay for parts and pay for other parts. I was shocked.
Yeah, yeah, but it's interesting because you can take those four categories, and it doesn't matter whether it's dentistry, whether it's plumbing, whether it's
Sure.
HVAC, or whether it's a retail shop. It's the
Mhm.
same thing. I mean, it's the four
Exactly.
categories are the four categories.
And not to make it right or wrong, but they're just large groups that I've noticed as I help my clients get ready. And you just have to decide, who am I aimed at? It's much more effective to prepare your business for a given buyer type. You'll waste less money, less time trying to find, if you can really narrow down, who is the ideal buyer for your particular business.
Mhm.
And this is all just under increasing value. There's three other areas that you can work on. But what buyer type, your ideal buyer, huge part of increasing the value
All right,
of your business.
we'll get into some of the other types after the break. If somebody wants to find out more about you or get more information about how you can help them, where should they go?
We put together some resources for your listeners, and if they go to prepitnow.com, they'll have access to a whole checklist of things to focus on as you get ready to prepare your business to sell. It's called prepitnow.com.
Very good. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense.
Imagine you had total freedom. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to be a slave to your business. The words, I can't, are eliminated from your vocabulary. What if you could do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it? A financially fit business could give you that freedom. How? By knowing what your financial statements are telling you and taking action based on what they say. You can do this in less than 10 minutes a month, at an investment of less than taking your family out to dinner once a month. And if your financial statements are a mess, you can get help. Go to www.financiallyfit.business or click on the QR code below to get started today.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm talking with Ruth Mannschrek, who is an expert in helping companies sell their business or prepare to sell their business. And before the break, we talked about the four different types of buyers and making sure that you figure out who you want to be your buyer. So let's go through the other three pieces quickly.
Okay, sure. The first piece was to increase the value of your business. The second step that I tell people to take a look at is how can you decrease the risk that's inherent in your company? For example, if you as the owner are the rainmaker for everything that happens in your business, you're going to have a hard time finding a buyer because you're going to be hard to replace. You can look at, do I have does too much of my business come from a small percentage of my customers? Or do a small percentage of my team members, are they responsible for the majority of my deliverable hours, my billable hours? Anything that puts danger on what if this person leaves or what if this customer leaves, that's perceived as a risk. And they will go through your accounts receivable and say, so how much of this came from your 3 or 4 largest customers? So that's a huge way you can decrease the risk that buyers are going to see in your business when they start to take your numbers apart. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. So you can't be the only rainmaker. There's got to be other
Exactly.
salespeople. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is to focus on your competitive advantage. So let's say there were 2 HVAC companies in the same area that were for sale. Why would someone pick yours over the other HVAC company? What is your claim to fame? Is it your reputation? Is it your delivery of services? Were you the first in the area? Are you the biggest? You need a competitive advantage to make yourself stand out. When it comes to selling your business, you're actually promoting it. It's like marketing something, and you need differentiation is a word from marketing that we use. You need to stand out, stand above, stand alone, to get their attention about why they would pick you, because there's a lot of businesses on the market.
Absolutely. And last but not least,
Is to make your company turnkey easy, because a buyer doesn't want to step in and have a full-time job just trying to figure out how your business runs. Make it turnkey. Make it so that someone can just step in, turn on the systems, encourage the employees, and it takes off and it continues to generate revenue as it did when you were there.
so we need a processes and procedures manual. Yes.
Mhm.
Now, what do you say about the financial side? Because if their books are a mess, what happens?
Absolutely. And this whole piece, you do such a great job with the financial piece. I'm going to start sending some of my clients to you because you have a fabulous way of looking at that. And I'm assuming that they have that financial piece in order. There is so much in the soft skills, so to speak, part of grooming your business that I find it very simple. I spend all my time talking about the topics we just discussed, and I hand off the financial piece. It's a huge piece. To get you to the table, you need revenue. You need profitability. You need underutilized capacity. There's all kinds of KPIs that you need. There's all kinds of metrics in your industry. But I spend all of my time talking about the other pieces, because even if you're a tiny business, if your metrics are good, if you're trending in the right KPIs, you're going to have a great business if you've got this other stuff lined up, all the 4 things that we just talked about. So yes, those are 2 hugely important pieces of getting a business ready to sell. But in my world, everyone focuses on the numbers.
I
Everyone
know.
says, if I don't have and they think it's just about revenue. They don't think about, are all your services, do they all have profitability? What are the margins on everything you sell? So that's such a big topic. I am more than happy to let fabulous owners like you handle all of that. It's very important. But aside from that, there's so much you can do to make up for. Say, what if you don't have great revenue? What if you don't have great profitability on all your line items? you still can sell a fabulous business, but you got to focus on that other stuff, you know? So many business owners don't have time in the lifetime before they want to retire to correct their revenue, to correct their profitability. And I focus on all the other things they can do so they still have an opportunity to sell their company to the right kind of a buyer.
Cool. In the intro to the show, I mentioned, I want to sell my business and you're not going to sell it in a month. How soon before you actually do sell should somebody start thinking about and putting these processes in place so that it becomes very attractive to the buyer?
I think for a lot of reasons, I would like you to start getting your business ready as soon as you open for business. Because many of the things that are going to create a self-propelled business that is run by a hugely a high-performing team are exactly the things that are going to get it ready to sell. And I even say, there's always this conversation about, well, when do I tell my employees? Do I have to wait till after the dirty deed is done? I've sold it, and then I come into our next team meeting and say, guess what, guys? I'm out of here. That is so rude. I have this different approach to it. I say, why not? What if we told them 10 years before you're going to sell? Say, guys, I'm not going to be here forever. But while I'm here, we're going to get it ready so that this is such a well-run machine that nobody's going to want to let you go. You're going to have a position here. They're going to want to keep you on because this thing that we create together on the backs of your workers generates painless cash. It's something attractive. It's winsome. They're going to want to buy it and keep you there. I'd much rather set the team up like that so that they're not surprised. They don't feel resentful. They're not, it's just so demeaning. And I didn't do this. So that's why I'm saying this. I didn't treat my team with as much respect as I could have if I had thought about it.
Yeah.
I
I know somebody who did exactly that. They had a company meeting, which they did on every month or whatever it was. Nobody knew that they were selling. And they
know.
brought in the new owners who were there with the meeting and told everybody. And a good portion of them left.
It was, yeah. And can you blame them? I mean, it's a rude thing to do to people. These people built your business. You're making money off the backs of their labor. And I just think it's a respectful, and look at it from their position. That makes you feel appreciated, like somebody cares about your perspective about how you're going to survive your family, because we're responsible for all these families. And it's such a better win-win situation when you tell them from the get-go and say, we're going to build this together, because what if I get hit by a truck tomorrow?
That's right.
You never know. So I like having everybody on the same page and working on it together.
Sounds good. Give us your website one last time, please.
Sure. The website for the resource is prepitnow.com.
Very good. Ruth, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome. This is great. And I truly appreciate all the good work you guys do.
I appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money, too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.